Economic freedom is the ability of people and businesses to trade, invest, and compete without unnecessary barriers. Free trade plays a central role in this. When borders work, markets open up, competition increases, innovation thrives, and economies gain access to regional and global opportunities. But when borders fail through closures, bottlenecks, or weak enforcement, economic activity slows, jobs disappear, and informal networks expand. In countries like Nigeria, these trade barriers are not just economic issues, they are security issues. Restricted cross-border trade has contributed to smuggling, unemployment in border communities, and the growth of criminal economics that thrive where legal trade is blocked. Today's conversation examines the link between economic freedom, free trade, and security in Africa. Hello and welcome to 360 Youth Dialogue. If it's affecting the youth, we're talking about it here on 360 Dialogue, only on Third Eye Africa Television. My name is Juliet Onwura. And across Africa, economic freedom is often seen as growth, job, prosperity. But we rarely ask a question where, when security is affected, how does this affect trade? How does our, borders, how does it affect our borders and all that? When trade is restricted and borders become barriers, how does this affect Nigerians? Today we're examining the link between economic freedom, free trade, and security in Africa. Joining me to do that, I have with me Favour Adeboye. She's should I call you an economist analyst or a young, vibrant Nigerian and economist and analyst? Please, a little bit into your whole, your passion for economic freedom and all that.
Okay, thank you so much for the intro, Julia. That was really nice. Like you said, my name is Favour Adeboye, and I love economic a lot. And when it comes to how politics and economic relate to each other, I love to talk about it a lot. So political economy, that's my thing. Analyze how politics influence economic freedom, how it influence our daily economic life, our behavior, our consuming power, everything in general.
So let's look at Nigeria now, looking at politics and economic power and all that. In Nigeria, what would you say, how would you define our economics and how politics has played a part in our economics?
Okay, taking a deep breath for that question. Nigeria is a big landscape, right? And I won't say we're doing bad. I always say Nigeria is faring, not bad. We're faring, let me say modestly, that's what for it. We're faring fairly, yeah. And how politics influence Nigerians' economic landscape, it does a lot. Okay. Because when it comes to policies, when it comes to laws, when it comes to regulation, that's what defines economic freedom. These three things define economic freedom. Without policies, you don't talk about economic, because when policies are restrictive, there won't be freedom of economy. You can't buy and sell the way we would love to. You can't make decisions freely economically. So politics does have a very good influence on economic in Nigeria.
I mean, I'm not really so knowledgeable. I don't want to use the word buoyant, but knowledgeable when it comes to economic freedom. But just to talk about that, can you ground us and ground our audience on what economic freedom really entails?
Okay. Basically, it means the extent to which individuals and businesses can make economic decisions freely without interference from the state. And this covers trading, investment, ease of doing business, prosperity, and of course, equality, social mobility.
I mean, it covers everything.
Almost everything.
It covers everything. So the ability of me, trading, doing whatever I have to do economically without the interference of a state power or state authorities. I mean, that's what you would describe as free trade, economic freedom.
Yes.
But what's the difference between economic freedom and free trade?
Okay, economic freedom, I forgot to add, why you are free to trade and do all of that without state intervention, that should be where they're operating under clear and fair rules. Because if the rules guiding economic freedom or economic system is not clear and it's not fair, trust me, there is no freedom there.
Okay.
So I forgot to add that. And back to your question, you said, what's the difference between free trade and economic freedom? So economic freedom is just like I defined it to be, is a concept, and it is, let's say, a state most countries aim to attain. Everyone wants to be economically free, to trade independently, to do this independently. And this is where I would love to bring in the Freedom Africa report, because everything I'll be saying now is based on evidence, not emotion, because I love to analyze issues based on evidence and not emotion. So we're making reference to the FINA report, Freedom in Africa. It's short for FINA, not for
Okay,
FINA
Freedom
rather.
of Africa report.
Freedom in Africa
Okay,
report.
Freedom in Africa
Yeah, I can
report.
call it FINA. That's like the
Okay.
short form of it. So it analyzes this economic freedom in different stages.
Okay.
And now defining the clear difference between economic freedom and free trade. Economic freedom is like I said earlier, you've been able to trade, to work, do business independently without any state interference in your decisions. While free trade is a principle,
Oh.
is a principle, is a guiding principle for us to achieve economic freedom. I said that it is a state most countries aim to achieve. So which is that guiding principle, that policy, that framework that help us to achieve economic freedom.
So there is no economic freedom without free trade.
Most likely not.
Most
Which it
likely not.
answers, it enables economic freedom.
And this brings me to the next question, where
Okay.
where I have to ask. You know, a lot of people have said free trade is the backbone of, you know, economic freedom, is the backbone of everything we have described. And looking at it from that point where you said without free trade is like the principle, the policy, according to me speaking like I really knew it. But either ways, as we talk, I am coming to understand that without free trade, that's the policies, there is no economic freedom. So that's what would you call it the backbone for economic freedom?
The backbone, one of the backbones.
Oh, what other backbones can, you know, bring about economic freedom?
Okay, different other backbones. You know, when I first defined economic freedom, I mentioned politics and economy. Politics, institutions, government, leadership, influence, and economy. So free trade is one of the backbones. It's a framework on its own. It's a guiding principle that enables economic freedom. Now, the Freedom in African report, other issues for are highlighted there. Political freedom is one. No, political freedom, when you are not free politically, economically, how would you be free? Do you
That's
get?
right.
So that's another backbone, political freedom. Do you get?
So that's free trade, political freedom plays key role when it comes to economic.
They do a lot.
So now let's examine Nigeria with these two backbones that we have. Looking at political freedom in Nigeria and looking at free trade, what would you say is the free trade and political freedom in Nigeria according to the report so far?
Okay, political freedom in Nigeria, it's more like, you know, there is this gap in Nigeria when it comes to politics and freedom. We claim to be free, but we still, you know, we are still being attacked directly and indirectly.
Okay.
And there are different factors that make us being attacked. We have policies, we have systems, we have orders. Do you understand? So when it comes to that respect, I always tell people that political freedom plays a very huge role, right? But in doing this, let's not forget that we should keep advocating for free trade. And for me, the advocacy should start with political freedom.
Political freedom.
Yes. Because if you're not free to move around, to speak, to gather peacefully without being clammed upon, eaten down, or disappearing indefinitely, or being detained indefinitely or arbitrarily, trust me, how would you want to trade or consume or work or do business? Do you understand? So they work hand in hand. And free trade is like the policy on its own. And I would say Nigeria is still, I don't see we are limping. We're not doing bad. I always say we're not doing bad. But I believe we can do better to implement free trade.
To implement free trade. I mean, Nigeria
Or
is
to make
coming
the
up.
trade more free.
Nigeria is coming up with, you know, policies. When it comes to
Definitely.
policies, a lot of people say we're doing well with policies, but the main thing remains the implementations of these policies. And you made mention of political freedom, where we have the right to gather without fear of disappearing and all that. And we're talking about insecurity in Nigeria. We're seeing the rise of insecurity in Nigeria, and the infiltration of weapons and, you know, foreign criminal elements coming into our borders and all that. This, you know, the restriction of, you know, our borders and all that, how does this affect trade in Nigeria?
Okay, it does a long way. And just to, you know, rate Africa based on the Freedom in Africa report, Africa generally ranks 47.
Africa in general, like the entire Africa.
47.0, beg your pardon. 47.0.
Okay.
That's our score over 100. And in
Not too bad.
2020, 5 years back, we were 51.4. So that obviously is a decline. Do you understand? So if 5 years back we are over average, 51.4 is not that bad, not best but not that bad. And now we are 47.0. Look at that.
There really is a decline.
It's a decline.
So is it because of the rising insecurity?
Not because of that only. There are different indicators for that. We have authoritarianism, which is growing rapidly. Electoral integrity, declining as well. Insecurity as well is adding to that. Economic inequality as well, adding to it. And, all these work together. Different factors work together to influence something. Do you get? Now, how does insecurity play out in all of this? I do say that Nigerians are actually very amazing, right? And different things make people to be a certain way. Insecurity is an issue. When you look at those that usually perpetrate these attacks, they are mostly youth.
Very correct.
Not to, be explicit or anything, but I'm just saying this based on evidence. What we see online every day. I mean, we see people being nabbed every now and then. We see weapons being nabbed on the road by the soldiers and policemen. And we see all these things every day. Now, when you look at those that are behind the scene, who do you see?
They're the young ones. Obviously, an old man will not take a gun and, go to the street.
Can he run? Do you understand? So, there are different factors influence people to do these things. Unemployment, poverty, social mobility. Do you understand? So all these things probably make them to go about doing these things. And when insecurity is on the rise, how will free trade even go on at all? The government want to protect the border. They don't want people to bring in weapons. They don't want people to come in with themselves and come and attack their country. They want to close the borders. So not even directly it affects free trade.
Directly itself.
Because when we look at some of the information gaps in Africa for the AfCFTA, Africa Free Trade Framework, one of the main issues, aside from the tariff barriers, which the AfCFTA aims to eliminate, most of the non-tariff barriers, when it comes to insecurity, is number one. Mostly number one. Insecurity, we have corruption, we have bureaucracy, but insecurity is always, you always see it. You always see it there. So it really, really does affect free trade in Africa.
Now we're looking at barriers being closed and all that, and it's directly, I like the way you put it straight up, it directly affects it directly. So now what does this do to local producers, local industries in Nigeria?
Okay, so when the border is open, it enhances innovation, competition, it enhances people get access to global markets. You'll be able to leave the local confines, trading between Nigeria. You'll be able to take a product out to other countries to trade, get more consumers, get more customers, and you also have a chance to also patronize the people as well in the region. But if the border is closed, what happens? You'll be left within the confines of your country, of your locality. And what does that say? It will affect your business. To compete, you'll be like, is there a competitor? There is none. Now imagine there is this, now picture Africa as a continent that produces a vehicle, a brand of vehicle. Like everyone just come together to produce a vehicle. What would you think that would be like? Just imagine Africa having a brand of vehicle to ourselves. Now, that is on its own. Now, in Nigeria, we have Innocent in Nigeria. Do you get? Now, imagine Innocent having other people to compete with. It will be forced to scale up. It will be forced to innovate. It will be forced to, do things better every single day. But with that competition, you are left within your locality. You don't want to compete with you. No one to even make you to want to innovate. You'll be restricted. And that would also hamper value addition in a way, because you won't be forced to add value to your products. You'll just be there.
That's right. That's really right. Okay, let's go back to where you made mention of various factors that affect economic freedom. And you made mention of something that really struck me a bit. You said authoritarianism. So I want you to highlight more on that, especially in Nigeria, how it has affected Nigeria and the people itself.
Okay, like I said, Nigeria score for Africa rather is 47.0, right? Now, in that respect, in Nigeria, authoritarianism growing every day affects people a lot.
So now this authoritarian, is it from our politicians or from like I really want you to break it down so we get to where is the problem coming from on this authoritarianism?
I don't want to point fingers, right?
Okay.
But we all know where it's coming from.
Okay.
The security agencies, I don't want to say high-class citizens, the VIPs, we all know where this is coming from, right? So authoritarianism is an entrenched issue. It didn't start today in Nigeria. It goes decades back. But, when an issue is decades or, growing every day, I believe the older it gets, the less I should talk about it. I believe it should reduce. But on the flip side, outside Nigeria, it's increasing. Do you understand? So I think how it affects businesses is a lot. Imagine the government coming suddenly to ban businesses from doing something. They may say it's an economic decision, but on the flip side, I believe it's a form of authoritarianism. I'll give you an example. When the shea nut exportation was banned about a few months back. Now, do you know who that thing impacted the most in Nigeria? Can you just give a guess?
Local producers.
Local producers. Those that are farming themselves. What was the reason they gave? To enhance value addition. Whereas what you aim to achieve within 24 hours is already having impact on people. The prices dropped by 300K in 24 hours. Do you understand? Now, how would you want to do business in that kind of state, in that kind of environment that keep implementing stifling policies? The taxes are just there. Now, let's say with the NBS, the Nigerian tax law, at least that has to some extent that's reduced. The recent tax law that was implemented, the fiscal laws made Nigerians are low-income earners to pay lesser tax, while those that earn more, that make more money, pay more tax, which to me, I believe it's not free, it's not fair, but let's leave that aside. Imagine having to trade or do business in an economy that keep implementing policies every single day that stifle your business. How would you feel? So that's like, it isn't a direct impact. Like security is on free trade. It's also a direct impact on doing business in Africa. And even when it comes to property rights, you may not have that freedom to want to make money like you would want to, or to acquire property like you want to. I don't want to call names like I said earlier, right? But now let's make a reference to this issue of the land in Abuja, for example. People have to think twice before buying a land because they don't know what will happen tomorrow. Now imagine there's a simple law, clear and fair, that guides the purchase of lands, not only in Abuja but all over Nigeria. How much land would you purchase? As much as you would love to. But property rights, the laws in Nigeria is making people to think twice before owning the property, which I believe is not fair. So authoritarianism in that aspect is really, really not cool. Not cool.
Now let's still look at policies. Some of these policies, the government has placed it for the benefit of that's it, the government, the general. But at the same time, you made instances where it has affected the local producers themselves. Is there a way the government can, you made mention of making it fair and clear, very important, very, very important for making policies that should, support economic freedom in Nigeria. How can the government now make it to please all? Because even looking at, let's talk about the tax law, the tax policy coming up 2026 now. To you said it's not fair. But to some people that,
it is fair.
We're saying, let the rich pay higher and the poor pay lesser. That makes sense. But still, even with the rich paying higher and the poor paying lesser.
They won't even get rich at all.
Not even. A lot of people would rather not declare their assets. A lot of people would rather not, come out to say, oh, this is what I have, and, get their tax identification number and all that. But still on that, it still cripples some people's businesses, and it favors some. So this whole favor some and don't favor some, how can the government balance that? Is there a way at all?
Okay. Make reference to the Freedom in Africa report again, by the Liberally Center. It was launched in October, 2 months ago, 2025, during the CFA conference. And yes, the report scored Africa Ease of Doing Business 5.2 over 10.
5.2 over 10. That's like pass mark.
Pass mark? But are we doing better? No.
We can do better.
We can do better. Now, some of the issues that was highlighted in the report include bureaucracy, corruption, tax burdens, and other things in between. Now, you said, can the government favor all and sundry? Even you as a person, can you favor everybody?
You can't,
Not possible.
obviously.
But if before you enforce any policy in the country, look at one thing. Does it favor you? Does it favor everyone around me? If the people that it favors are below those that it doesn't favor, it's not a policy. That's punishment. So it has to favor the majority. Do you understand? So if a policy is favoring just a minute few and leaves like the majority to just sort themselves out, that's not even a policy to start with. It's punishment. You get? So Freedom in Africa report highlights this, like it breaks down these issues step by step, just indicators by indicator. Do you understand? And I believe Africa can do better, and the government should not try to favor everybody. Look at the majority. We always
The
carry
majority
the
that
votes.
are affected. Okay.
Look at the majority. And while doing that, do not let go of your sense of logical reasoning. The Liberty Center do promote objectivism because we have to be rational in our thinking. You don't make decisions based on sentiment or emotions. You have to be rational in your thinking because that is only when you can actually make an impact without in the next 2 3 years hurting people backward. Do you understand? So if you look at logically, will it favor the people, the populace? If yes, in the next 10 years, will it have an effect on them? If no, why not? Go ahead. Do you understand? So be logical and look at the majority. This is what Liberians promote every single time in our articles and our publications, even in our events. We promote logical reasoning and objectivism. You have to look at this thing, and majority as well. How will it affect them?
So now looking at this tax, policy that is going to play, do you think it's logical and it affects the populace?
From policies, so far so good. Economically, I don't want to score, but the Freedom in Africa report is enough evidence for us to look at. Do you understand? We can all go back there and look at the score. So if it's favorable, we won't score below average.
Yeah,
Do
true.
you understand?
I mean,
so it's common all out there. Imagine having 42.8% economic freedom in Africa. 22.8%, way below average. Did you understand? So if it's favorable, we won't score 42.8% in Africa.
but before I'm sure before the report came out, the tax law was not really in place, and now it's in place. I think it should score higher.
Okay. FINA scores tax burden on citizens 8.0 over 10. Yes, 8.0 over 10. So
Okay.
we try. Let me say we try small.
Okay.
Right. We did a little bit better, but we can be better. Now, it's not only about tax burdens. We can look at other aspects as well because, like I said earlier, different factors come together to affect economic freedom in Africa. If tax burden is 8.8 over 10, right? And political freedom is 47.0. Economic freedom is 42. Do you understand? If the overall score is given below average, but one single indicator out of 5 as a high
Scores
score,
high.
about the remaining ones that has lower scores. Let's look at that as well. Do you get?
Very true.
So when it comes to taxation, Africa is trying. We live in a financialized world, and Africa is trying to burden people not much anymore because when it comes to tax burdens, it's reducing daily. We can say that it's reducing, but we also need to look at other aspects. Minus taxation, what else?
Now let's look at the other aspect. Minus
Okay.
taxation. What really is else?
Okay, freedom of movement is part of it. Yes, we have ease of doing business, property rights. I've said all these things
Yeah, you
earlier.
said property rights in
and
Abuja.
tax is just
especially.
one of 10. Do you understand? So there are other factors that contribute to it. Political freedom, we have ease of doing business, freedom of movement, of expression, of assembly.
And now looking at the recent incident that happened in Kwara, a church people in church being kidnapped and all that,
Yeah.
and we're seeing this Yuletide season, a lot of people are like, I would rather sit in my house and celebrate with my immediate family, with people around, than take the risk of moving around and being kidnapped. And we're seeing people kidnapped here and there. I mean, that's something that really affects our economic freedom when we look at it on a broader aspect, not
Yeah.
just looking at insecurity right now. And we've seen how insecurity has played a big role,
A very big
a
role.
very big role in destabilizing economic, in destabilizing food security, in destabilizing schools, down to freedom. In fact, I would say insecurity has really, damaged a lot in Nigeria. But let's talk about the African Continental Free Trade area you talked about. A lot of people have described this as a game changer. Would you also describe it as a game changer in Africa?
Free trade, right?
Yeah.
I would say yes. Yes, it is a game changer for Africa because there are different reasons why I would say that. And number one is policies, of course. I said free trade is a framework, is a guiding principle, a guiding policy, do you understand, that enables economic freedom in Africa. Now, imagine all African countries ratifying all the provisions of the AfCFTA. How would you be in 2060, which is our benchmark here? Imagine what Africa would look like. We trade more on a large scale, validation is on the rise, freedom of movement is on the rise, and back to rating freedom of movement in Africa, according to FINA, we are 5.4 over 10. Freedom of movement, a bit over average, like you would say, over average a bit, but I believe we can do better because we're not completely free. If people are scared to do some things, we are not free because freedom starts with individual. Do you understand? Individual freedom is like the very number one thing for economic freedom. If you're not free as a person, how would you want to be prompted or be propelled to economically do things that will make you free economically as well?
And the AfCFTA, I don't know if I call
AfCFTA.
AfCFTA. I like the way you pronounce it.
AfCFTA.
Okay.
Yes.
The African Continental. I
Free
rather
trade area.
Pronounce everything right.
Yes.
The African Continental Free Trade Area allows African country to do business together, and grow. But I would say, despite the whole good policy it has and all that, there are challenges it has faced so far.
Yeah.
And to you, what problem would you actually see? Yes, these policies are good, but what are the problems the African Continental Free Trade faces currently?
Okay. The AfCFTA is facing a couple of issues, and experts typically say that each country is thinking of themselves and not of the general good. Do you get? One is insecurity. It's a non-tariff barrier. AfCFTA aims to eliminate tariffs on goods and services across the continent, right? Now, let's say tariff barriers are off the table. If but not tariff barriers, bureaucracy, corruption, insecurity, poor infrastructure. Do you understand? All these things work together to affect AfCFTA implementation in Africa. Imagine, most African countries do see Mauritius as a model for efficiency, which actually, yes, they're still doing great in Mauritius. Economically, they're doing great. Politically, they're doing great, and all of that. But then, let's say they are doing great for themselves, and are the ones to, integrate themselves into the AfCFTA. But other countries are not willing to because of some issues in the country, systemic issues like insecurity, bureaucracy, corruption, for facilities and transportation systems that are not even working for us to stock more for other countries. So we don't want to do that. They won't want to do that. So I will always say that countries should look inwardly and tackle these barriers first, because AfCFTA is an enabler of economic freedom. It will make us want to do things, because if you say that country is doing well and you want to become part of a 1.2 billion people market, you have to tackle the issues you have in your country first. Deal with corruption, with your policies, with regulations, with active laws. Deal with corruption, cause bureaucracy. I can't want to get something and I will be spending hours, days at the checkpoints. Why? I want to send my goods to other countries and I'll go through like 20 checkpoints just to check one good I want to sell. Why would I want to trade with that in place? I wouldn't want to. So cause bureaucracy. Do you understand? When it comes to transportation systems, we need to work more on that. Looking at the Visa-Free Africa, we need to work more on that. If, say, the Freedom in Africa report mentioned the Visa-Free Africa, just a few countries already have this in place. We have Gambia, we have Ghana, we have Kenya, and a couple others. But about other countries, we are 50 countries in Africa, 50 countries plus in Africa, and less than 10 implement Visa-Free Africa. The amount you pay on etiquette, the tax on etiquette alone is something. Nigeria is trying to take off the tax on etiquette, but about other African countries. Do you get? So tackle transportation systems. If you want to trade, with the road, it's not good. We have potholes, we have smuggling, we have insecurity on the road. Now let me try using the air. And then the amount I will use to transfer my goods is even more than the amount I'm paying for a seat. Like, come on.
That's true.
Even the money we want to acquire a visa, it's something on its own. So we can make Africa visa free. It's achievable. Do you get? We can make Africa visa free, and the Freedom Africa report prioritizes Africa visa free Africa because once the traveling is less stressful with the visa free what's it called movement. Trust me, other things will become swift. Do you get? And then the insecurity aspect of it is a lot. We've been seeing series of coup in Africa recently, and then soldiers coming out to say the country is facing insecurity. Imagine the recent Benin coup, that was about 2 weeks ago, and then the soldiers said health policies that are stepping on them. How much are they earning? Now to take off subsidy on health benefits, number one. And then they also mentioned insecurity, that other issue that made them to take over the country. Do you understand? And several other African countries too listed this same insecurity issue. So it is not a one country thing. I believe I don't want to say the continent thing because some people are doing better in Africa with their security, but we can all come together and tackle this issue. Do you understand?
Unified tackle or come together
to tackle insecurity.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the implementation here. You know, this whole policies, the AfCFTA, the policies are wonderful. It's promising, but there are challenges. And also the implementation. I feel in Africa, we are so good with bringing up policies that should work, but are not working.
And a lot of lapses. Because if a primary school child, sorry to cut you off, can point out lapses in policies, I ask myself, how do these senators get there? What was the benchmark? What did they even do to even become senator? Because if a layman can point out lapses in our policies, and they did not, come on. But I believe they saw the, of course, everyone can say the lapses and all of that, but I believe we can do better with our policy. In Africa, Nigeria has beautiful policies. Amazing policies, but we face two major issues that I like to call enforcement issue, applicability, and also gaps.
So now, what are these implementation gaps that, you know, policymakers should really watch out for? And, you know, I also want to put in, you know, commissioner blocks here, like ECOWAS, EU, and all that. How can they look into these gaps to implement these policies rightly?
Okay, so ECOWAS is doing great when it comes to maintaining democracy across Africa, kudos to ECOWAS and AU. But when it comes to tackling economic issues in Africa, I believe we can do better. We can work together, just like we have ECOWAS as economic community of West African nations. I believe we can also have a digitalized system, a unified system for goods and services to go through. We have digital economy. Africa is not faring bad. Not faring bad. I mean, we score 5.7 over 10 in digital economy. Not faring bad. Over average, but still below expectations. Before you hype us, still below expectations. Do you understand this? It is still below trade openness. Trade openness is 6.6 over 10 in the Freedom Africa report. Wow, digital economy is just 5 point something. That is not fair enough. So ECOWAS can come in we can have this unified system. Do you understand? To make things work out. We have some countries already use, instead of having to manually check goods across borders, they have portals. Do you understand? We have Namibia, they already have portals where they check through goods and all of that. Do you understand? But ECOWAS, even Nigeria, but let me say ECOWAS, like a question me, we can do better by having a unified system. So each country knows what's coming in, what's going out. Smuggling will reduce. Do you understand? And some countries are already doing great when it comes to technology. We have Kenya that are doing great when it comes to technology, digitalization of things to make trade better. They are trying in Kenya. But ECOWAS, Kenya is Africa. ECOWAS is for West Africa. ECOWAS is like, I don't want to say we have the biggest mouth on the continent. Of course, we do. When we speak, everyone is already out there. So let's use that big energy we have, the big the authority we have on the continent to create a unified system. So we can create policies, ECO can create policies that enable countries to come together and have a unified system for trading.
And so let's talk about free trade and all that. You said something that a bit touched me. You said every country would want their own benefits first. So looking at the free trade and Africa continental free trade and all that, do you think all countries in Africa, including Nigeria, are ready, truly ready to, trade with each other?
On the average, I would say yes. In the African report, we rank trade openness in Africa at 6.6 over 10, which is a fair point. So with the evidence in front of us, we would say we are willing, we are open to ratifying this document. But policy inconsistency,
Excuse
as
me.
noted in the report, is slowing us back. Each countries have their own policies across borders. Now, Nigeria banned the export of shea nuts. Do you understand? Nigeria and Benin and even Mali did just earlier. Nigeria did us in just September, a few months ago. Now Nigeria, Benin, they banned the export of shea nuts way before Nigeria. Now, banning the exportation of goods, you say, is for value addition. Fair enough. But what are you doing to make value addition easy? Do you get? So policy inconsistency is one thing in Africa. You are banning the exportation of goods and services with the aim of you want to make it better, but you're not doing anything actually to make it better. So about you actually implement policies to make it better. About we African countries come together using, because I always say AfCFTA is a guiding framework on its own. Follow these frameworks. There are different policies there. Do you get? Follow this framework and let's rectify it fully. Because it's a different thing to rectify, it's a little to practice. Once you rectify this policy framework, but you're not practicing it, what's the essence? Applicability comes in. You're not applying it to your country. So policy inconsistency is an issue we have to deal with in Africa, and I believe we can go out of this by coming together and using that framework across all countries.
Indeed, we can use one framework across all country, and it actually brings the same result across all country, across the continent. But would you say insecurity? Let's link it to insecurity. Would you say insecurity is a cause or a consequences of this, 6-point openness that we're seeing from your report? That the Africa openness to trade is like 6 point. What did you say?
6.6 over 10.
6.6 over 10. Would you say security is, the cause or the consequences of this openness?
Okay, I would say it's both. Yes, it's both. It's both consequences. Cause because countries are scared to open their borders for fear of insurgency, banditry, kidnappings, and all of that. I mean, we see in the news how witnesses claim to see bandits moving into the country from another country because the border is open for them to freely move around. So that is one reason why most countries will even want to close their borders to free trade. Do you understand? When people are scared of their lives, imagine moving. We open the border for free trade, not for insurgency.
Exactly.
Do you get? But when people are using it against what the purpose is about, they will want to close the border. Do you get? Now, talking about, there are other factors that make people close their borders, like protectionism, the aim to protect local industries and all of that. But talking about insecurity in this context is the consequences, because if insecurity is in place, free trade will not take place. Do you get? Insecurity is a consequence, of course, because free trade is not the one suffering from insecurity. Do you understand?
It really plays both cause and consequences.
So right. I believe for us to get over that insecurity issue, because it always plays out in almost everything. Political freedom, we say insecurity. Academic freedom, we say insecurity. Freedom of movement, we say insecurity. In Freedom of Africa report, all these are indicators. Do you understand? Now, when insecurity is on the rise in almost all areas, all areas of freedom in Africa, how would people even want to thrive or prosper or flourish? Do you get? So countries need to, I always say it is not a day's journey, right? But we need to tackle insecurity. It's an issue, honestly. And I hope it doesn't affect people anymore, because it's really, really an issue. Do you get? So let's work together, include the private sector, to tackle insecurity, because people have amazing security gap and knowledge. The people are very innovative when it comes to tackling security in Nigeria, but they need that enabling environment to scale up. We have tech people in Nigeria that have beautiful beautiful tools to cope with security in Nigeria, but they need that enabling environment to scale up and up the country. So the government should not only, because when it comes to insecurity, it's not a government thing, everybody is involved.
Exactly.
So work with the private sector. Do you understand? Work with private sector, help, work together, collaborate, partner together to cope this issue.
Indeed. But just before we go further on this particular episode, let's take a short break, and when we're back, we'll dive more into economic freedom in Africa. Have you ever been a victim of crime? Were you robbed, scammed, betrayed, or harmed, and left with a story the world needs to hear? Do you want to tell your story for impact and awareness? On True Crime Story, we let you speak with your safety and privacy respected. We give real people the platform to speak their truth. We're documenting true stories. Join us. Your voice could be the warning that saves someone else. Your story matters. If you've lived it, we're here to listen. Reach out to us through our social media platform at Third Eye Africa TV, or send us an email to share anonymously. Reach out to us through our social media handle at Third Eye Africa TV, or send us an email at thirdeyeafricatv@gmail.com to share anonymously. Follow True Crime Stories here on Third Eye Africa TV. Yes, thank you for staying tuned here on 360 Youth Dialogue, only on Third Eye Africa Television. If it's affecting the youth, we're talking about it here on 360 Youth Dialogue. My name is Juliet Owura. Thank you for staying tuned. And today we are talking about economic security, freedom of Africa economy. And I've been having a wonderful conversation with Favour Adeboye. And so far, you can call me an economist, because right now I can tell you that free trade affects our economic freedom. And she made a wonderful, point where she said, with insecurity has been a cause and a consequences of free trade. Yeah. And still on that, let's talk more on the sector that has suffered most from, insecurity and then restriction of trade. We're talking about trade restriction just because the government can place its policy just for internal gains or whatever. And we're talking about insecurity where the government is, forced to close its border to contain insecurity in the country. So what sector is being affected the most?
Okay, I would say all sectors have been affected because all sectors have the right to trade under the AfCFTA. Do you get? It's trade openness for all sectors, services. Because of what you're selling, you'll find a place in the global market, in the continental market, right? So all sectors definitely have been affected by insecurity because everyone has something to sell and to buy. So, but if you can't buy or sell, you've been affected regardless of your sector.
Yeah. But small, including people that are selling the tiniest.
Even the POS guys. People make transfers.
Yeah.
Do you get? Imagine you want to buy something from someone from another country, and there's a POS guy that does multi-country transactions. Come on. Do you get? So everybody is being affected. The SMEs, the MS, every single person is being affected.
Indeed, insecurity on its own has affected a lot of things. We've made mention of that. And we're seeing trade restriction also affecting local producers. Nobody would have thought that shea butter would affect a lot of people.
Do you get?
Because I'm sure when the government was making that policy, they were like, oh, shea butter, right? But look at how even it affected the global market in Africa. We're talking about Africa here. And that's a lot, because little policies can affect the entire sector.
Yeah, that's like a very big decision, because Nigeria I'm sure we didn't even know how much we earn, because Nigeria contributes the most to global shea nuts. Shea is used for different kind of things, beauty products and different things. Nigeria contributes the most globally to shea nuts production. Do you get? But we earn just 1%.
Wow.
of the market. So that's what even made them ban the export of shea nuts initially. Do you get? A report reveals that Nigeria contributes the most, but earns just 1% out of 100%. Do you get? So that's what even prompted the government to ban exportation of shea nuts. But I'd say rather than ban it completely, like abruptly without even thinking, hey, but you come back and look at, so why are we earning this little despite contributing more? Why? Because every single thing is always about the why. Do you understand? It's always about the why. Come back and look at why are we earning this low despite contributing more? Then come back, okay, these are the issues, these are the gaps, these are the lapses. Now tackle those issues. Do you get? Work on those issues. Then you can say you want to ban the exportation, because when you tackle this issue first, it won't affect anybody. And even if it will, to be at the minimal level.
That's right. That's right. I mean, I can't agree less to all you've said so far. Okay. But let's talk about free trade. Could free trade realistically reduce banditry, terrorism, smuggling, insurgency in border regions?
Okay, I would say yes and no.
Okay, why is that?
Yes.
Why yes, why no?
Okay, in the Freedom in Africa report, free openness of trade is 6.6 over 10. And that means that the remaining 4 point something, there are gaps there. So you can look at the value or other aspect there. So I'm saying yes, because most people, at the very onset, I said something, most people are pushed into this insurgency because they lack jobs.
Okay.
Social mobility is very slow. Social mobility is how citizens of a country move up the radar of economic success. You get? So if you move up the radar, if inequality, let me just use the word, if inequality is on the low, people won't want to go into banditry to demand money of in millions of naira and billions of naira. So free trade aims to, it's real curb that, because I won't say is a one solution. It's a framework. Do you get that guide people conscious to implement policies that will help them to flourish and prosper more economically, right? But with the framework, there are always rooms for employment opportunities. Labor markets will be better. Do you understand? And other things also get better. Now, when countries like Nigeria are able to create more employment through the implementation of AfCFTA, trust me, more people will want to work for them, and they want to put their intellect, their talents, their abilities to good use. You get, and make money legally. And that will also reduce smuggling. Because free trade, if we follow guiding principles of low bureaucracy, no corruption, and all of that, no tariff barriers, if they're taken out of the way, there will be little smuggling, because people smuggle things in the most because they don't want to go through the process. The bureaucracy is too long, the bureaucracy, and also corruption. You have to pay money to pass your goods across the borders. So people would rather smuggle their goods in than even pay anything at all. Do you understand? So I would say, yes, free trade will help us tackle these issues. And employment is that people will want to trade more. They will want to, get their goods across other countries, to use the intellect to good use. Do you understand? And also, they will want to just show themselves that, okay, yeah, I'm actually smart, I'm innovative. Do you understand? And I said no because on the flip side, insecurity is hampering free trade. Do you understand? So insecurity reduce insecurity would advance free trade. Do you get my point? So,
But in a situation where, okay, let's say we open our borders, and if, like you said, if the policies and implementations are not put in place, are not put in check, like the bureaucrats are not removed, and we don't have good quality checkpoints and all that, to an extent, I mean, everybody can just bring whatever and then take whatever out of the country.
but there will be regulatory bodies to see to that. Do you understand? We have customs there for a reason. Do you get? Customs, what do? They check things at the checkpoint and all of that. But there's also a report released in August about the head of ECOWAS complaining about the proliferation of checkpoints across borders. Why would one border have over 20 checkpoints? You're meant to regulate, but when regulation turns to you have to give us money.
Exactly, that's where corruption comes, bribery.
In. So there have to be strict policies, strict regulations, strict laws. And also, Nigeria and Africa has to get over impunity, because if someone commits a crime, punish them accordingly. Do you understand? Punish them accordingly. Do not, because of any reason, say you want to let them go scot-free or pardon them unnecessarily. Do you understand? Punish them accordingly. So laws are there to guide people's behavior. Do you get? So if you want to open the border, you must accompany have policies to ensure that people are not going overboard in their attitude and trade.
And make sure that those policies are enforced, because
enforced.
that's the point.
Yeah, once again, Nigeria has good policies. Africa has good policies, but applicability is the issue we have. So if we can work on those institutions, empower them. Because one thing I've come to understand is that most institutions in Nigeria, and even Africa, they have people, but they are not, I don't want to say they are not well equipped. Some are not well equipped, while some, they have deficits in character. So train them. It's not only about recruiting. Train them. You get they have to be competent. You get, and also have good character. Please to work hand in hand.
Very correct. I mean, when we talk about economies, when we're talking about trade, when we're talking about money, that ethics have to be there.
It has to be there.
So let's talk about how can the government balance this national security, free trade, and even talking about the ethics on board right now. How can the government balance all this, and what solution can the government hold on to?
Okay, I would say the government they need to look back at our leadership first. That's number one thing. We need to tackle our systemic barriers, which I say affect us a lot. Systemic barriers of corruption, of bureaucracy, favoritism, nepotism, they are all out there. So the government can balance free trade with managing security by just having policies in place to make us work well. Do you understand? Have policies that enables people to work well. Imagine employment opportunities to be 5.0 over 10. FINA ranked in Africa 5.0 over 10. That's exactly at the average point. Now imagine there are policies in place to make people, get job, to even use opportunities as they should. There will be reduced insecurity in the country. Do you understand? Because everyone wants to have something doing.
Exactly.
So the government, at the core, at the heart of every country's prosperity is policy and regulation. The policy has to be enabling, to be favorable. And when it's supposed to punish those that are offending. Only then can the government truly balance, because for me, it's about policies and applicability of these policies. Do you understand? And also, we need to explore multilateralism. We need to work with other countries. We can't do things on our own. Nigeria government can work together with Ghanaian governments. Ghana can work together with Tanzania. We can all work together to make things work. So we can't do things on our own. The first thing is policies. Locally, have policies that make people to act responsibly and punish those who are offending. And also make these policies have to be favorable for businesses to thrive. Do you get? Because when people are getting fully employed, insecurity will be minimal.
Very true.
Do you understand? And also work with other countries. It's very important, because what you have, we may not have. What we have, you may not have. But coming together to make things work out is really balancing national security with trade openness. Because trade openness is country to country. Security is even becoming, it's not only country issue anymore.
Exactly.
We all know it's spreading wide across our countries. So we can't do anything on our own. For trade openness, work together with other African countries. For security, together as well, to achieve better security for everyone and businesses.
Indeed, I mean, policy and collaboration, very important, to bring about economic freedom. Thank you so much, Favour.
It's a pleasure.
It's so much. I've gained so much. I'm sure our viewers are like, I'm now smarter.
Okay.
Thank you for your input on economic security and freedom of Africa economy.
Thank you. The pleasure is mine.
Always. And to our wonderful viewers, thank you for joining us once again here on 360 Youth Dialogue. It's always a pleasure to have you join us here to talk about issues affecting the youth. If it's affecting the youth, if it's affecting you, obviously, because the youth are the largest population. Exactly. Thank you for joining us here once again. Keep watching Third Eye Africa Television. My name is Juliet Ora.